Hello, everybody. It's going to be episode 16 of Dreadful Talk. I'm really excited for this one. I do have a guest this week. And the guest is co-host of my other podcast, Beefy Boys Breakdown, Harrison Madden Prater. I think he just goes by Harrison Madden. I know. I got two last names, too. I know it would be getting confusing, but yeah, we're going to get him on here, and we're going to talk some sports betting this week. Really looking forward to it. Let's get it, yo.
Yo, what up?
Hey, how's it going, bro?
Going good, going good. I gotta get the camera set up a little better here for you. I got this fan, man. It's been messing with me, the light. You know what I'm saying? It keeps like flickering, so I'm trying to get a little better for the viewers. Here we go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
better.
No worries, brother. Yeah, man, thank you for joining me. For those, some people may be, watching and be like, wait, this isn't a Beefy Boys day. No, you would be correct. Your eyes are not deceiving you. I got my Beefy brother on my Dreadful Talk podcast. And for Dreadful Talk viewers, me and my boy Harrison have done many a podcast together, but he's never been on my personal podcast, Dreadful Talk.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you, brother. And then, for any Dreadful Talk viewers that haven't ever checked out our MMA podcast, Beefy Boys Breakdown, check that one out too, and go subscribe on YouTube to that, and follow on Twitter and Facebook. But yeah, so me and Harrison, we have a podcast together called Beefy Boys Breakdown, and we do that the day after every single UFC card, and it's a lot of fun, and we love it, and it's a lot of fun.
They're
However,
honestly, like, even if you're not a huge UFC fan, man, they're so much fun.
oh yeah,
Like, I
we
swear,
have a good time. We
yeah.
talk shit. Yeah, no doubt. We have a good time for sure. And but one drawback to doing the Beefy Boys Breakdown the day after the fights, which there's a million upsides to doing it the day after. It gives us a lot of content, a lot to chew on, as they say.
Yeah.
But the one downside is you can't really talk gambling because it's hindsight 2020 at that point.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
and we had actually had a few viewers request some more gambling talk on Beefy Boys. But like I said, since we do Beefy Boys the day after the fights, it doesn't really help too much to talk gambling, and then it's typically too early to have the odds on the next round of fights
Right,
whenever
right.
we're doing the Beefy Boys. And Beefy Boys, we go 3 hours without even, talking betting. So we decided to, take the opportunity to use this platform here on Dreadful Talk to talk some sports betting, talk some fight betting, talk the upcoming UFC card, and just give y'all a taste of what Beefy Boys fans get, and
Yeah.
hopefully a few, Dreadful Talk subscribers go over and subscribe on Beefy Boys Breakdown. Like I said, it helps to like MMA, but I like to think that the kind of content we produce, you could still get a laugh or two in, without being,
Yeah. I like to think that it's it's an entertaining show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you value MMA and like a real breakdown, we'll give you that. But also, sometimes we're just out there riffing, man. Like, it's a fun time. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like if you were to sit in on our conversation and just really get to listen to us talk. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
how I feel whenever I do it.
Well, yeah, and I guess and we've touched on this on the other podcast, but we'll touch on it real quick on Dreadful Talk. Is that's exactly how Beefy Boys Breakdown started. We were both MMA
Yeah.
fans. For those that don't know, I mean, I know a lot of our viewers do know me and Harrison's story, but me and Harrison grew up on the same fucking block in Norman, Oklahoma. Like literally, we could probably
Yeah,
punt a
like
football to each other's house.
yeah,
Uh,
100 yards probably
yeah.
was the distance.
Yeah, definitely,
Maybe.
and been boys ever since. We played high school ball together. Many a good time. Both before and after those days. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, but so we would pretty much hit each other up after the fights because we knew we were both MMA fans, and we'd say, hey, did you see this, or what do you think of this, or what do you think of this controversial this controversial decision or whatnot, and or this upset, and we would just talk about the fights, and then and then we started FaceTiming after the fights, and then we were like, you know
Yeah.
what, let's fucking do the damn thing.
I mean, we were pretty much breaking them down just with each other for
Just with
free.
each other, yeah, exactly, and it was just like it was good shit, and we both thoroughly
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and so we're like, let's take this to the next level, and that's how Beefy Boys Breakdown. That was the inception of Beefy Boys Breakdown. So, yeah, like I said, I love doing it, and everybody should go check that out. But I'm gonna get right real quick.
Yes, sir. If people are seeing me look away from the screen, by the way, I'm just looking up. I'm getting my odds brought up right here on the computer. That way, we have them all in front of me as far as live odds right now.
Dope, dope. Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, this episode is gonna be kind of about just sports betting in general. We're gonna start off with a wide view, and then we're gonna narrow that microscope in on UFC 253. So, we're gonna start out kind of broad in general, just some basic gambling terms, some terms that may confuse you. I know sports gambling is newly legalized in many states, and pretty much whatever states aren't already legal. I mean, in the next 5 years, it's going to be legal. Like,
Right. It's coming.
following
It's
the same
coming.
trends that, like, medical cannabis follow. Like, it starts off a couple, gung ho states, and then everybody starts seeing the money that can be made, and it's,
I was gonna say
it can be
that.
done responsibly, and it's not that big of a deal. And these laws are archaic, and like, what the fuck are we doing here? Let's get some action going. So like I said, that's why it's a very relevant topic, because like I said, if it's not legal already, it either recently has became legal or will be becoming legal soon. And I think, like they're even putting point spreads on ESPN now and shit.
Yeah,
There's a
and
sports team in Vegas.
like John Anik will talk about the odds at every UFC event when they bring out the fight, and he'll say the prohibitive favorite at this odds. Like he just says it as a part of the introduction of the fight now.
Yeah, and that's definitely the way it's trending. I mean, it's been trending that way for a while. I'm definitely all for it. I'm definitely for like just like, you know what I'm saying? Like being able to do what you want to do as long as
Yeah,
you ain't hurting nobody else. Like, yeah, I mean, can people get addicted to gambling? Yeah, but people can get addicted to jerking off too. Like, you know what I'm
dude,
saying?
you can
Like,
get addicted to anything that you enjoy that much.
anything.
You know what I'm
You can
saying?
get addicted to driving fast. You can get addicted to going to church. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can get addicted to
Yeah,
lifting weights, like
yeah,
cigarettes,
that's a good point.
alcohol. I mean, I think it's kind of your right to like get addicted to something if
Shit, some
you
people get
want.
addicted to throwing up, anorexia. You know what I'm saying?
No, for real.
Or
So yeah,
being skinny, I guess, whatever way that goes.
so it's just these weird archaic laws of just like trying to like put like, I mean, I guess it's hard to ignore the elephant in the room of just like kind of trying to like force like Protestant Christian values down
I was gonna
America's
say, you think
throat.
it's
Like,
religious undertones, right? Because like gambling is considered to be a sin, right?
that's what
So
I'm
it's like,
saying. And like, I mean, and that has a lot to do with my worldview growing up in a place like Oklahoma where there's a church on every corner, and
every corner.
me kind of breaking free of that. I'm not really religious anymore. And so I tend to view things through that spectrum, but like, like I said, I'm not saying that's the only way to look at it or the only reason. I know, but I'm also just looking at it from like like kind of more of like a legality, like political standpoint. I'm a fan of legalization of a lot of things because, like, we see firsthand when you make something illegal, it creates a black market, which
Yeah,
fuels criminal enterprises and leads to violence. Then the connection between violence and the thing get connected when it's really a large U, and
yeah, I
it
agree.
appears that they're close, but there's a whole U that connects them that people aren't seeing.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I mean, it's like drugs, you know. If
yeah,
you
the war on
legalize
drugs.
marijuana,
Exactly. Oh shit, you froze up a little bit, hum. You
sorry
there?
about that.
Oh no,
My phone just messed up. Yeah,
you're
no,
good,
but
bro.
the whole thing is that yeah, it's like once the government steps in and regulates it, they actually offer protections and like real regulation. And it also like kind of makes it where it's not so much of a commodity and it's a balanced price across the board as well.
Oh yeah, once again, cannabis is the perfect example. Look at how
Yeah,
much the
yeah, it's
prices of
perfect.
cannabis have dropped, how much safer it is to purchase, how much safer it is to consume. I mean, all,
To even
across
talk
the
about in
board.
general culture, it's even more accepted, you know?
Oh,
So
totally. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and the same thing's happening before our eyes with sports betting. And so, like I said, I'm a big fan of people, having the choice to do, what they feel is right for them, and that goes the same across the board. I feel the same way about guns. Whenever you make guns
yeah,
illegal, it puts them in the
it's
hands
a
of
way,
criminals.
yeah. It's a
So,
way
so
bigger problem.
I know some people might be rolling their eyes thinking I'm just some dreadheaded Cali liberal, but I really try to hold my principles across the board and not be, tied to one side of the aisle. And I just believe in freedoms and choices and, things of that nature. So yeah, we're gonna, like I wanted to start off with just some few basic terms.
Yeah. We
Some
can
of
run
these
through them.
terms still confuse me. And so I'll kind of bounce it off you as a legitimate question. And, some of these I'll
Yeah.
kind of chew on with you too. And we'll get to it. So I think
Sounds
we've
good.
already said this term once in the podcast, but I'll toss this one to you. Go ahead and break down the term spread. I feel like that's the first kind of term that kind of gets it's like applies to betting. It's like a very common term people hear that may not be familiar with the spread. Ironically enough, the spread doesn't really pertain to fighting. It's going to be more of like a team
Right.
sport type of football, basketball type of situation. But yeah, go ahead. How would you define spread?
So spread is essentially for like gambling purposes, any sport that's tracked through scoring. The spread is the estimated point differential between the two competitors by the end of the event, right? So let's say that USC is a -8, or the number that is next to their name is -8.0 against Colorado, right? What that means is that USC is an 8-point favorite. So whenever you're doing their score total, the spread is 8 points negatively for them and positively for Colorado. So what you can do is you can either take 8 away from them or you could give 8 to Colorado, whichever way you go about it. But that's the actual line at which Vegas is playing the game.
Yeah, that was a great definition. And now I'll get into the why. That was the what. This is the why. What is that? What does minus say? I'll continue with your example. So a lot of times in the college, I'm actually glad you used college football because spreads I
Yeah,
think are perfect for college football because
yeah, I
there's a lot
agree.
of uneven matchups. And I love that
Absolutely.
you used USC Colorado because it would be no fun for anybody if you just had to pick the winner of USC Colorado. I mean,
Right, because we all essentially know that USC should win that game 9 out of 10 times.
is the better team, has the better athletes, the better coach, the more money, all that shit.
But could they win that game 9 out of 10 times by 8 points or more than 8 points?
Yes, so
Now that's the intriguing question.
and the spread is put there for that intrigue. I'm glad you used the word
Right.
intrigue. The intrigue, because nobody in my previous example of you're just picking who wins and who loses. Nobody in their right minds are going to put money on Colorado because there's no incentive to put money on Colorado because you're probably going to lose. And if the money's even, then you're going to pick USC. It's obvious choice.
Right. Well, see,
So
that's where Vegas got smart though, and then they
yes,
offered money lines, which money
yes,
lines are the exact opposite of a spread. So money line, another gambling term, is whenever you take the spread out and you just pick a winner. Just regardless, you pick a winner. Now the money line is either going to be over 100 with a plus or over 100 with a minus. When
yeah.
it's -100 or higher, so -100 to -1,000, let's say, that's the prohibitive favorite in the contest. Anytime you have a minus, you're the favorite. Um,
And that actually pertains directly to UFC fights and
right. So
more
UFC
individual
won't have a
sports.
spread. They'll actually only have money lines,
Yeah.
and their spread is more so over under on the rounds.
But it's the same kind of basic principle, though. It incentivizes betting on the underdog because, like I said,
right. There's more return.
going back to the USC Colorado. Like if you win $100 if you bet on USC, and you win $100 if you bet on Colorado, then there's no point in betting on Colorado.
Right.
But that's why you have to bet on USC to win by 8 points. Like,
Right.
and you'll also hear the term spotted, like Colorado spotted 8 points, or they're getting the points. That's like a
Hmm.
gambling kind of old school street term. You'll hear are they getting the points? You
Yeah.
hear people
Or
say,
like if you say I'll take someone and the points, or I'll take Colorado and the points, you're essentially
yes,
saying you'll take them and the plus number on the spread.
exactly. So you're not betting on Colorado to win the game. You're betting on them to lose by less than 8 points.
Exactly right. That's exactly
And
right.
then you see how that would affect people's decision making on where they're going to put their money, and it makes it interesting for both sides as opposed to just the landslide obvious choice of USC is going to most likely win the game. Like that's not really up for debate, but how much will they win by? Now
But
that's a whole level of nuance that, makes it, that's what.
it starts to get dangerous too because the lines are not static. So for
Yes.
people that don't know, when large amounts of money come in on one side or the other, it'll actually push the line. And Vegas is always changing the line of the score, spread, over under, length of event, all that stuff. They control and can manipulate until the event starts. Once the event begins, all bets are
Yeah.
locked. Nothing can be changed or moved. So
But that can work to your advantage as well. If you like a guy and you get a better number. So sometimes,
absolutely, it's
yeah.
sometimes better to go early. Sometimes it's better to wait till literally the day of and take it right before.
And that's why, I mean, in sports gambling, like nuance is the name of the game. Like it's all built around nuance. Like
For sure.
nothing is black and white. Like it's all. I mean, the way they set it up is where you could make an argument for either side. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and
Well,
so go
if
ahead.
you want an example for NFL, they no one beats Vegas in the NFL. Like that's just the one sport where they dominate harder than any other sport as far as Vegas in the house versus the betters. A good example is last week there was a game. Whoever the Broncos played, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but I asked a buddy while we were at work, "Do you think the Broncos cover -2?" -2 is a crazy thin line, right? Like
Yeah,
you essentially
yeah.
you're just picking a winner. The Broncos ended up I think winning by 2. And so it was a push. And it's just like, and Vegas hit the over under, they missed it by a point and a half. So it's like Vegas essentially can tell you the score of a game before the game happens.
Well, and I think the NFL is the hardest to bet too because it's the whole any given Sunday
It's
factor. And like,
razor thin, yeah.
and I mean that sounds so cliche, but I mean I think it's truer in NFL than any other sport. Like
Absolutely. It's the
I
hardest
think
sport to bet.
I don't know. Baseball seems super weird too because
Baseball's hard because they adjust the way you can bet. You have to bet 1.5. Have you ever seen baseball betting?
no, no, I never bet baseball. I'm kind of talking out of my ass. Go ahead.
Baseball's
It's
really
weird.
weird. You have to bet on teams to win by a run and a half or keep it within a run and a half.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's a
Well,
really weird system,
that
right?
is a weird.
Because like the Angels suck, but if they lose 5-4 and you bet on the A's to win 6-4, there's just one run of difference. But like, how are you supposed to know?
Oh yeah, well, and that's what I'm trying to bring it full circle. Just talking about unpredictability,
Yeah,
like
baseball's tough.
I feel like basketball is kind of bankable. I mean, barring
Yeah,
like like a last minute scratch. Like if you know who's starting, you know what I'm saying?
over unders are a lot easier to hit in basketball too because every year the NBA gets faster and faster paced, more and more threes. So you can almost always bet overs and be safer by the end of the year than other.
And then like UFC, like MMA, boxing. Yes, there's nuance because of the money line, like we were talking about, but it is still just like 1v1. There's
Hmm.
less variables, less factors. But like you get like a sport like football, 11 on 11, three different phases of the game, plus
Four
the
quarters,
refs,
60 minutes.
high injury sport like
Yeah,
football. Like it's a wild fucking card. So yeah, like
yeah.
football is my favorite sport to watch for largely a lot of those reasons we just listed. Why it's a hard sport to bet because it's so what I mean unpredictable and wild. But yeah,
To
for betting
to
can get a
to
little
be
crazy.
honest, like a little like better's tip, insider better tip would be that if you're playing, let's say fantasy football, you can even take it down to this level. If you're in a fantasy league this year and you're between two guys to start, go to Vegas, go look up the over under for the game that they're playing and see who has the higher projected point total. Because Vegas will give you a spread and an over and under. So essentially Vegas will give you the total points scored and the points for each team as they assume it will end, right? So from that you can essentially say that if the over under on the Chiefs Packers game, let's say, is 67 points, that's a high scoring game. Whereas you might see the Bills and Seahawks have an over under of 44. So in fantasy terms, you know there's more offensive production in one of those games, so you should be more likely to play that player. So that's how that would translate over to like daily fantasy.
And if anybody's wondering why the fuck I brought this man on for this topic, that's why, man. This motherfucker's smart. He knows his shit. And yeah, we gonna be placing some bets in the near future for sure, for sure. All right, so we've kind of like briefly touched on this in context, but I kind of want to just like address it directly, not in passing. Cover. You can cover a
Yeah,
spread. You'll hear that term. I know even before I ever placed a bet, I heard that term in movies. You just hear that term on TV, Sports Center, whatever. Cover the spread. go ahead and break down how a team would go about covering the spread and what that means.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just keep with the USC Colorado example, the 8-point gap, which that was a real line last year in the Thursday night game they played. So there is some real history to that. And also Colorado did cover. Never bet Thursday night games in college football. Just that's another insider tip for everyone. Weird shit happens, short weeks of practice. But to cover essentially means that, let's say in that 8-point window, Colorado then lost the game by any margin less than 8. So they lost by 7, 6, or they even won the game.
Yeah,
so
At that point,
you don't have to still lose. Yeah, just as long as you lose or win by less than, or I guess lose by less than 8 and win by any margin.
Yeah, exactly. That would be covering the spread. Exactly.
Correct. Right.
And then I didn't even have this written down, but it's just kind of like the 1A to that one. So a team can cover the spread, and then a team you'll hear people's record against the spread or against the number.
ATS. Yeah, ATS is a
spread.
super important thing for betting sharps to look at too.
Exactly, because a team may fucking lose every game but cover the spread every game. Like they barely lose. Like there's those teams that just lose close games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Actually, believe it or
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say in 2015, actually, when OU, I think it was 2015, played El Paso, they had Jonathan, the running back, Aaron Jones, the running back for
the Packers.
The Packers, yeah. So he was the running back for UTEP, right?
Oh, I didn't know.
They had the Giants have a guard, Borjas, who was the guard at UTEP then as well.
Yeah, that guard was a beast. I remember that.
So they had some like real beasts on their running game, right? And UTEP actually covered the spread every game that year. It's the first time it's happened in like 26 years in college football. They're 14-0 against the spread. Last year, Louisiana Lafayette was 13-1 against the spread.
So just some scumbag in Vegas with a fucking that smokes up 2 packs a day. Fucking cash that watched every UTEP game, bought the Southwestern Conference package. Fucking
hell yeah. Dude, I rode Louisville Lafayette last year, Louisiana Lafayette so hard last year, dude.
Nice.
Raging Cajuns, baby, and they're still raging this year. Beat Kansas State at home opening game.
Nice. No, I mean Louisiana's chock full of athletes, man. If they can just snag a couple of those guys, they'll be all right.
But yeah, the against the spread, so in other words, though, I should also note UTEP that year finished the year 7-6 or 8-6. So it's like even though they were 14-0 against the spread, their record was still god awful as far as real football games.
But that just goes to illustrate the difference in what those numbers mean.
Like as a betting fan of UTEP, I was stoked. If I was a real fan of UTEP football, not that great of a year.
I mean, let's keep it a buck. 8-6 is a phenomenal year for UTEP.
Yeah, for UTEP.
Yeah. They fucking had
fair.
parades and hung banners, homie. I don't know what you're talking about, but probably the dean of the school is getting in on the action. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so there's covers, right? But then the opposite of that is a bad beat, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad. I didn't know. Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up, my man.
And this is one that SVP features on SportsCenter regularly. So if anyone's wondering about an example, just look up SVP on SportsCenter. Essentially, a bad beat is you got it covered. It's garbage time. The other team, let's say they're favored by 10 points, so they're up by 13, and there's a minute to go in a football game. So this team isn't going to win with 1 minute to go being down 13 points. But they might score a touchdown in the last 10 seconds, and they might cover that 8-point window because then they'll only be down by 6. So it's like they score in the last play, but then for some reason they go for 2. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then let's say they finish at 8 and push the bet. That's would be considered a bad beat. It's because it's like they didn't need to do this in the situation, but it happened just because that's the way the game was going to be played.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Or just guys that were like a couple of seconds away from winning a bet.
Yeah. So essentially your cover gets blown.
Thing happens.
Yeah, your cover gets blown by like a meaningless action. Here's a great example for OU fans. Samaje Perine not running into the end zone against OSU 4 years ago when he took the knee at the 2. We didn't cover that spread that game because he didn't score. We missed it by 2 points.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, that's just a prime example. Yeah, that's – so sports.
And in the game, that's smart. That's smart to do in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like in the way I was playing. If I was just playing the football game, Samaje Perine did the right thing. When I'm betting the game, he fucked me. You know what I mean? That's the difference.
Exactly. And It's just so interesting to me because I mean, anybody that as a fan of sports or has ever played sports knows like sports are a super nuanced thing. Like there's a million outcomes like for every input. There's a million
So
outputs,
many,
and
so many.
so and then the betting takes an already nuanced thing and adds like 90 layers of additional nuance to it.
Essentially, think about it like this. It's like analytics of the way shit occurs, and you don't have any analytics to display it. You just got to understand and feel it. Like that's how gambling feels to me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because you
and
just kind of got to go off what you think is going to work.
yeah, and not confuse that with your sports fandom. You've given a few
Right.
insider tips. I'll give a few insider loser tips of like how I've lost money on past bets, and that's betting with your fandom.
Yeah,
Never
you never
do it.
bet on never. I don't. So I have a rule. I don't bet on in-state teams, regardless of
Yeah,
the sport.
yeah, no, for you have a skewed perception. They're overly covered by your local
Right.
media.
My media
Your
is going to bias my opinions.
the shit you follow on social media is all you follow the reporters from that team. I don't know. I mean, on one hand, you can say you think you have more info, but it's kind of the opposite. It's kind of like paralysis by analysis. I feel like
Absolutely.
your overconfidence in what you think you know is outweighing just the facts at hand. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yeah,
Right.
and
It's like when you
I've
go to a
experienced that for
It's
sure.
like, it's like going to a Walmart and having 1,000 options of soup versus having 10. Like you're going to be more confused by the 1,000 options than the 10, even though you have more options. Now you're having to weigh those options, and instead you're actually probably making a worse choice overall,
Or soup.
as
The
far as your
soup game
happiness will
is
be
fucked.
considered.
Yeah,
The soup
yeah.
game is fucked.
Soup
It
game
is
is
fucked.
fucked, man. But all right, brother. So next term, and I know this is one of your favorites, and I'll be real, this is a term that confused me until very recently. But go ahead and talk about parlay.
Okay, so parlays are essentially the devil to a gambler, but also like your
Yeah,
salvation, right?
yeah.
Because
That temptation that is the perfect analogy for devil because there's always that temptation to strike it big.
absolutely. So the way a parlay works is you're pretty much telling Vegas, I'm going to get this bet right and this bet right together, and if I miss either one of them, then
And
I
typically
lose.
three, right? It's
So
typically
you
a
can do
minimum of three, or can you do
yeah,
two
you can
parlay?
find sometimes some casinos will offer parlays of two. That's more rare for sure. I would say parlays of three are what you're most likely to find.
That's
Uh,
typical. Like,
but you can do parlays of up to 20 in most
yeah,
casinos.
yeah. I
And
saw on Twitter today. I'm like, I follow like a BR betting.
yeah,
Somebody fucking I think hit like a 15 NFL parlay and turned like $5 into like 30 grand or
yeah,
something crazy
no,
because
you'll
the
turn,
odds
yeah,
are astronomical. Like
right.
little needle in a haystack, 1 in a million, probably worse than 1 in a million. Like,
Yeah. So like the odds breakdown is that if you do a parlay of three teams, the payout is I believe 2.6 to 1. So essentially you win 2.6 times what you bet plus what you bet back. Now every time you add another team to that parlay, for instance a 4 to 1 parlay I believe pays 5 to 1, and then you go to a 5 team parlay and it pays 10 to 1. Then you go to a 16 parlay and it pays I think 15 to 1.
and so that's the ultimate double-edged sword because, like I said, as far as quick flips and how to turn a little into a lot, it's so enticing, and some people like to put a small amount on a parlay just for shits and gigs, right? Keep
Right.
it interesting. Maybe make some games that you ordinarily wouldn't watch more interesting. I think that's
Yeah,
a
for
smart
sure.
way to go about parlays. I definitely don't think it's wise to like count on a parlay. It's a shot in the dark. You know what I mean? It's a full court heave with down by one. You know what I'm saying? So definitely don't rely on parlays, but they can be a lot of fun. And it's
Sometimes they're worth it.
Yeah,
I hit three 16 parlays last year in college football and just wrecked the
nice.
season out just on those 3 weeks.
Fuck yeah, hell
But
yeah.
then the NFL, of course, robs me every other day. So
Yeah, man. Like in just I mean I think we've made the point so far, but just to kind of hammer it home, so it's pretty damn hard to win one sports bet. You know
yeah, just a
it
straight bet is
yeah
tough. Just a straight bet is
a
tough.
straight bet is pretty tough. I've lost a few. And now you factor in to get two, so you bet two and they're both right. Like, oh wow, you're cooking with gas. And a parlay is most times, like Harrison alluded
Almost
to,
always at
is going
minimum
to be
three.
3. So you're essentially like you need to be just perfect. Like you need a hat trick to like to hit it. It's hard to do, but when you do it, you know what I mean. It's just it's
It's glorious.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
glorious. Like for
It's
instance, I bet $100 on a 16 parlay last year, and my net earnings was 1,600 from that one week, and it's like that's a crazy gap.
yeah,
But it's
no,
also I
that
missed
profit
that
margin.
and lost that 100 8 weeks that season. So minus 800 there, plus it's 1,500 that day. So it's like you come out positive on the season by hitting one, but it's so hard to hit even just one.
Yeah, and you see how Harrison's talking about it like in a long game like that, and that's really how the smart bettors do it.
Yeah,
Because you're
that
gonna
actually
win
brings
some,
me
you're gonna lose some.
to another term, which is ROI or return on investment.
Yep.
Which is like if you ever follow a sports handicapper, professional bettor, also called sports handicapper, um, they will always, almost always, they should post their ROI or percent ROI. What that means is every dollar that they invest in their bet, they're putting a negative or positive percentage of money that they have made back or lost on those bets.
Yeah.
So to give you like a mathematical example, let's say in a year's window, I bet $10,000, and I with that 10,000, and let's just say I have it in an account, right? So it's never touched, it's never changed. And the end of the year, that account is at 11,000. My ROI was plus 10%
Yeah.
because you had a
Exactly.
10% gain on your initial standing. So that's what ROI is. ROI is your biggest determinant of a gambler's success.
Exactly. Because
Just
you're either gonna
just
be in the
straight up.
positive or the negative. Like the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, like
And
your record can be shit, but if you call the underdogs, you're positive.
that's why I was saying to people that like really, really want to take gambling seriously, you got to look at that long game
Hmm.
because you can't like live in the moment every weekend when you win or lose. You got to look at
No.
overall. Now, somebody like me, like all I do, I'm a casual bettor. Like if there's a big fight that I'm really into, or I just happen to have a little extra money or what have you. Like I place a few bets a year. I'm not the biggest into it, but so then yeah, you can revel in the moment. But if you're somebody like people, there are people out there who make a living sports betting. There are people out there who truly, truly do look at it kind of like the stock market, or like that's
Yeah.
like
There's black market guys that do it, man. I got a guy out here in Oklahoma named Sal. I'm not gonna say his last name obviously on live, but yeah, he does all black market bets. Like has a guy he calls in Vegas. The guy in Vegas loads the money on your account for you, and then you just gotta pay Sal. Sal pays the guy. So
wow. Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Yeah, I am. So I'm going to Tahoe in a few weeks, and I think I'm gonna jet over to the Nevada side and play just something small, just
you
for
have
fun.
to, man.
Yeah,
You
I want
have
to
to.
place an in-person bet. I've done a
Hey,
few online. I want to just experience the
you know what
in-person
you
bet.
should do while you're there
What's
is you
that?
should get the William Hill app and you should sign in while you're in Nevada because it'll take your location, it'll track your location, and then you can have an active betting account on William Hill Sportsbook, which is the official book of the UFC and a lot of other sports that you can
Crazy.
access while you're in Tahoe.
Good look. Good look. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do that for sure, man. That'll be a lot of fun. I'll keep it pushing. I got one more, or not, well, I don't know, maybe one more than one, but I got another term for you. Prop, and I ain't talking about
Oh,
rugby
yes.
either.
Yeah,
I
or the propeller on a plane. Neither one of
no,
those.
yep, neither one of those. You'll hear the term prop, especially like Super Bowl week, like
The
sports
most famous.
radio. Yep,
Hmm.
sports radio shows will spend like a whole day talking about props, and so yeah, just what the hell is a prop? Not
Dude, so prop bets are my favorite, and they're also the most ridiculous shit on earth. So a prop bet, for instance, is it's essentially a propositional bet that Vegas has come up with, and they're saying like, "Hey, this is just some fun side shit that takes place, has to
yeah.
take place. Here's what we think. What do you think if you
It,
want
it
to take this action?"
it's like admittedly nonsense, but it's like
It's like if you have an addiction, you'll come to prop bets. Like that's what a prop bet is. It's like it's an addict's hell.
well, and I
Because
feel like it's also like meant to like intrigue casuals. Like, and one of the reasons why
yeah,
the best, I guess the best for them. A lot of people hate the Super Bowl, like true football fans, because
the
like
national anthem prop bet's the best one.
Yeah, well, that one, and then like you
or
end up.
coin flip.
I'm just saying, like you end up watching it in a room full of people that like don't really watch football, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like prop bets are meant for those people that you
Absolutely.
know what I'm saying? So like exactly, like Harrison just said, you can bet on the length of the national anthem,
The
the
coin
coin
flip.
toss, probably like what fucking color hair Miley Cyrus is gonna have at
Uh,
halftime,
this
fucking
last
that
year,
type of
this
shit.
last year, you could bet on who Chris Collinsworth gave his tie to from the winning team, because Chris Collinsworth apparently always gives his tie from the game he calls to the player he most likes on the team that wins the Super Bowl.
I dead
We,
ass would not want it, bro.
I would, yeah, I would fucking look at him and be like, dude, fuck you and that bullshit
Get
tie.
your
Get the fuck
long
out of
face
here.
fucking out of here.
Dude, like when I heard that, I was like, that's a real prop. Like, I'm
That
out,
sounds
dude. I'm so
weird.
out.
That
So
sounds weird.
Vegas,
Like, that sounds
yeah,
like he wants you to like come to his hotel room later and
yeah, like what
fucking.
is he doing? Is he trying to build a network of Chris Collinsworth tie players? Like, I don't understand it. Are they gonna wear it in the fucking game around their helmet, just tie it around?
Fucking all the players like go home and like give it to their uncle that has a court date coming up. Like
Yeah,
just like
yeah. Like,
fucking like I
what
don't
was the
want
point? And it's like
this.
he's not buying a nicer suit than what they could afford. So
No, no.
the whole thing is just like, what are we doing? But like, so prop bets are bets for fun. They're literally bets that do not affect the outcome of the game necessarily.
Yeah, then like a lot of times have nothing to do with the sport itself. Now they can, like there are some football. Like, would you call like if you is Julio Jones going to have over 10 catches? Like, would you consider that a prop?
That is a prop. However, that's a more realistic prop
Yeah, that's a more
than the
like
outsider
serious
facts.
prop.
Right. So that's a great point. So props are actually bets that deal in like extreme specificity is I think
Yeah,
the best
yeah,
definition.
good point. Because yeah, it doesn't have to be nonsense, but
And it
like
has nothing to do with the outcome of the actual game typically in a
yeah,
prop as well. It
exactly.
almost always affects some small factor within the game that you called to happen. So another prop is in basketball who wins the opening tip-off. That's
Yep.
always a prop in games you can always take for parlays. You can put props in parlays too, for people that are wondering.
Okay.
And some props in UFC. So the over under is always in a UFC match either half of the scheduled rounds to fight. So in the UFC, you can fight 3 rounds or five. So your over under is always 1.5 rounds or 2.5 rounds. The prop bets are you can start moving that a round down or a round up. So you could do under half a round. You can do under 2.5 rounds. You could do under 4.5 rounds, or you can do so you can move to whatever half amount of rounds you want as a prop, but the official bet for length of a match is going to be half of the event in UFC terms.
Okay. All right. Cool, man. And this is going to be the last term. Go ahead and break down the over under. I think we mentioned it briefly earlier, but
Yeah.
get more specific on the over under. I know they'll talk about that on sports radio a lot as well. You'll hear that term thrown around. Especially, I think it's more of a basketball or college football. I mean, I guess people do it on NFL, but
Yeah,
I
and
think it's
like
more like high scoring sports, right?
yeah, absolutely. So I was going to say baseball and hockey over-unders are dangerous. They're dangerous, dangerous, dangerous to play with because you don't have a lot of
Yeah,
scores.
the margin is well. I think even baseball, because as somebody who's like I watch kind of a lot of baseball. I mean, you could go fucking 8 perfect innings and then the fucking closer gets shelled for like 8 runs. Like that
Right.
happens like kind of often, or like you know what I'm saying? Like the starter gives up 4 runs, but then the bullpen throws a shutout. Or like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's so unpredictable. Well, I feel like
Or
now so more than ever. Like I feel like back in the '90s when guys would pitch full games, it'd be probably a little easier to bet baseball. But like
I agree.
nowadays, a fucking your starter pitches 4 innings on a good day, and you know what I'm saying, and then you're getting like 5 different relievers.
Not to mention the shifts that they put into play now too
Yeah,
for like
yeah,
which way you hit. Like they've completely destroyed scoring in baseball essentially because offense is so much harder to come by.
yeah, no doubt, no
But they're
doubt.
also juicing the balls, so that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I've witnessed so many. I mean, it's almost like that's more common. Like baseball, usually like the scoring isn't like evenly distributed. It's usually like either a team starts off super hot and then they yank the starter, and
Yep.
then usually either the bullpen puts a halt to the scoring run, or it just continues to be just a shit show.
Yeah, I was gonna say they either get shelled or they come out and silence out the hitters.
Or it's the opposite, like I said a second ago, where the starter actually does their fucking job perfectly right,
Hmm.
and then the reliever comes in and gets fucking stroked.
I feel like that's been the story for the Dodgers for a while. Like Clayton Kershaw, he'll come out and pitch 7 2/3, and then they lose in the last inning on some shitty relief pitching, and it's like, what a way to
Kenley
lose,
Jensen.
man. Yeah, like
Yeah.
what a way to lose, man.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, and I'm saying this as an A's fan who doesn't spend money on anything, relief pitching is the easiest shit to get.
Oh,
So
you know what? Did you
if
watch?
you, I'm
Did you?
just saying, like, if you fucking spend all your money on starters and don't have any relievers, that's on you, homie. Because I'm an
Yeah,
A's fan, and we get by with mediocre starters and fire young reliever arms
yeah.
that
When
throw
when
gas.
the you remember when the Royals were super good like 3 years ago? That's what they had. They had three relievers that were like the best three relievers in baseball. So it definitely makes a difference. And when the hitters get used to in a groove of facing this pitcher for 3 or 4 at bats, and the last at bat they come up with is a brand new guy that's throwing heat on a fresh arm, that's got to be tough as a hitter.
Yeah, yeah, and like and this is part of the reason why, and we'll get off of the dreadful talk baseball hour here in a second, but one of the reasons why pitchers don't pitch as long nowadays is because the analytics show that the more times a batter sees the same pitcher, the more likely he is to get a
Be
home run
successful
or
and get a
be
hit.
successful. Exactly. So now they're pretty much going through the lineup twice, maybe 3 times if you're a stud, and then
Yeah.
even if you're a baller, you're getting yanked before they see you 4 times.
Now I will say to bring it back to betting, that's a great example of a prop bet. How many innings does this pitcher pitch?
Yes.
Is it under or is it over or under 5 innings? Let's say that this guy pitches. Like that's a common prop bet in baseball.
Yeah.
That's also a hard thing to call, right? Because you don't know how that pitcher is going to fare against that team's batting lineup, and that
Yeah.
changes every single day.
It does, and like their health, because like literally nowadays, if a guy is like mediocre healthy or like injury prone, I mean, you could have the perfect game and they'll still yank you after 5 or 6. Like, so yeah, that's a whole. I honestly don't advise betting baseball. I'm sure there's some
Mm-mm.
guys out there that's their specific thing and they're good at but God damn, it seems like a fucking roll of the dice, man. Which is
Baseball is like too
how
analytically
ironic.
sharp within the sport itself. Like the way they play their own sport, like coaches, managers, all that stuff is too analytic already. So it's like the gamblers that use analytics to get the edge, it's taken away from you in baseball.
When
Like the
weird shit
teams use
happens.
the same shit you do already. So it's like,
I've seen guys with like 189 slugging percentage hit like winning home runs, and like
yeah,
I've just
because their
weird
matchup on
shit.
that pitcher was good, or that pitcher liked to throw like changeups, and that guy had like an OBP of like 800 on a changeup
Just
on his fourth at
weird
bat or later,
shit.
and it's like these crazy analytics are literally baseball to a T, and that's
Yeah,
why I can't bet baseball to save my life.
I
Now in
like watching
UFC,
it. I like watching it, and I know not everybody does, but I like watching baseball. But yeah, betting it, that seems like a nightmare.
you know what's funky to me though is that I oftentimes hear talking about UFC bets, people telling me that UFC is just too hard to bet because there's so much stuff that happens in camp and it's a fight. So how are we supposed to know how an actual fight occurs, right? But there's just so much stuff you can watch and pay attention to and look into that will give you huge insights into the way a fight like plays out.
I think I gotta say you gotta be picky with UFC bets, and like
Hmm.
yeah, you can't like bet on fighters that you don't like
If you don't
haven't
know a
watched
fight in the
fight.
UFC or you
Yeah,
feel like it's a toss up, I'll just flat out say it right now. Don't bet it. Like I'll give
exactly.
picks on toss ups. I will give picks on toss ups because I feel like I'm obligated to at least give a pick on a fight. But most of the time when it is a toss up, I always note it as 50-50, super slight lean, wouldn't bet this fight.
Exactly. And so it's like in football, I haven't watched the Jets or like let's say the Bills or the Bengals play this year. I haven't watched a second of them play, but I would still feel comfortable betting that game just off my knowledge of the league and my
Yeah.
knowledge of how
Or
they're
like the
going
the,
and
the Dolphins, pretty
yeah,
bad.
exactly. And so it's like fighting. I don't recommend doing that. Like if you haven't watched the guy
Mm-mm.
fight, you don't know about his career, you don't know, who he fought last. When's the last time he fought? You know what I mean? The matchup is he fighting? How's his jujitsu? Is he fighting a grappler? Is he a striker? Is he taller than the guy he's fighting? Like, I feel like you need to know these things,
For sure.
before like I feel like basketball, football. you can kind of get by on like your knowledge of which team's good, which players are good, who's hot right now. But I feel like fighters, you kind of got to dig a little deeper than the surface. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and honestly, with fighters, they have to make weight, so weight cuts are a huge thing. Like, if a guy is comfortable in his weight class, we talked about this on our most recent show. Colby Covington has a very good weight cut for him, anatomically to make 170, whereas some guys struggle and literally kill themselves to make that weight. So, of course, 36 hours later, after you've damn near killed yourself to make it to a weight, you're just not going to be as good as a guy that didn't have to kill himself like that to get to the same weight as you.
Man, I'm a little disappointed you haven't roasted this big ass water bottle yet, bro. This is one of them motherfuckers that they leave out in the desert on the border. To be
Oh my God! It's a
like,
crystal. Is it a crystal geyser?
oh yeah, but
Oh
look,
yeah. Oh yeah. It's a what, a liter bottle, 1.5. It's not even in ounces. It's in liters.
yeah, it's in liters. You're right. It's the 1.5 hitter
It's
right
why.
there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they got it from the border. It's in liters.
Oh man, but
I can't fucking believe. I should have called you out on that.
I was waiting. I was just like,
Yeah. I was like, it's the whole screen, but whatever. We'll go with it.
Yeah, no doubt, brother. No, I'm just fucking around. But all right, and I also kind of wanted to touch on how like different sports books will have different numbers. Just
Perfect. So I have this brought up in front of me right now. I have 5 different books up in front of me, and I was just
yeah.
going to run through the odds on Costa Adesanya just for people to get an understanding of what that looks
And
like.
what a sports book is the
Yeah.
people that set the numbers, that take the bets, the essentially the people that establish all these parameters that we've been explaining throughout the podcast.
Yeah, and I should note, we always say like, oh, Vegas makes this line, whatever. It's not really Vegas. We just say that because all the casinos have traditionally been started in Las Vegas where gambling was legal. Really, there's all kinds of sports books.
Atlantic City has a lot of pull, I know, and on
Bingo.
Jersey, right? They're in Jersey.
Bingo. Yeah. So Nevada and New Jersey were the first 2 United States states to have like fully legalized gambling for their residents. Colorado now is on that track, and a few others too, which is great. But for instance, like Bovada, which is like a national betting website you could access at any point as long as you had a VPN through Nevada or New Jersey up until now recently. They usually have pretty standard odds. They almost line up exactly with William Hill and Caesars. William Hill and Caesars are going to be your top 2 sports books in the United States and globally.
Okay.
They
Okay.
hold the most like median odds of any book. So you'll probably get your worst odds there, to be quite honest. Like you'll make
Yeah,
your
because
least money.
they're bland, right? Like they're gonna be like right down the middle. You won't get any
Exactly. You don't get
like
any action either
good.
side.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying.
But it'll give you your most fair line of the fight
And
too.
then other sports books, because they are smaller, probably give more extreme lines to try
Yeah,
to entice
yep.
business
They
away.
juice the underdogs.
Yep,
That's right.
yep,
And
yep,
that's
yep.
what you have to do. So for instance, there's a Oddshark opening. Oddshark is where I go to get my betting odds, just for anyone that wants to know. They'll list like all the sites that provide odds for that fight, and then if you have an account or are able to access that site, you can go bet there from Oddshark. It's a pretty nice little site. So they always list the opening odds. Opening odds are what Vegas essentially, or any sports book, as an agreement, will say like, this is what we think. Now the public, you start betting money, and from your bets, that will move the lines to the final. Like we talked about
Yeah.
earlier,
Yes,
when you
yes,
put money, it moves the lines.
exactly. And that was literally the next thing on my list. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Exactly. So if
So
everybody and their dog, and this doesn't even mean that it's smart money. So this is
no, smart
another
money will come in within 36 hours of the event occurring. That is
exactly.
called sharp money.
There's sharp money, smart, aka smart money, and then there's the public, the masses. And you'll hear like actual gambling shows like talk about the difference in those two things because certain things are just gonna be popular. Now, this example kind of sucks because LeBron's like actually favored to win, but like say LeBron was on a bad team, there's still so many LeBron fans that would put money on LeBron that
Yeah,
it would sway the number in like an artificial way,
they're
but it's
less
not
of an underdog.
artificial
They're less
because
of an underdog because the public bet them that way, not because LeBron was actually as good as the public perceived him to
yeah,
be.
and that's just one example. I'm sure, and I was probably one of them. whenever McGregor and Mayweather fought, I'm sure there were so many McGregor fans that just wanted to put money on McGregor for the sake of putting money on McGregor.
Absolutely.
That just influenced the line because otherwise, Mayweather. I mean, the smart money. I mean, the Mayweather was probably going to win the fight. I mean,
Oh, Mayweather got a bet of 11 million on his side the night of the fight. Like all the sharp money on earth poured into Mayweather, literally within 6 hours of him
there was
fighting.
so much public money
Like,
on
oh
McGregor.
yeah, so
Yeah,
much on McGregor that the sharps are all like literally foaming at the mouth for the line and just letting it move, letting it move, letting it move. And they were like, okay, now it's time. It's one of the best boxers, if not the best boxer for that weight class of all time, against a guy who's never had a professional fucking boxing match. Let's
exactly.
take the easiest money I've ever gotten in my fucking life.
Yeah, man. And so it's like
Ridiculous.
what I like about gambling is that everything I feel so many things in life is a fucking game, but it's like they don't like admit that it's a game. But
Right.
like gambling, like it is a game, man. It's the
Yeah, it
definition
is.
of a game,
It
and
is.
but they call it like it is. You know what I'm saying?
It's
So
so
man,
crazy because it's super accurate, but at the same time, like it's all kind of facetiously built.
it's like the most artificial real thing because it's
Yeah,
like
it's like it's real
involving real
shit, but it's
money, but
also
it's just like
completely. It's like blockchain currencies. That's literally how it feels to me.
that's a good analogy. Yeah, because it's like it's based all on just like opinion and like I guess you could say insider knowledge,
Like confidence, it's based on confidence, essentially.
confidence, and like or just like a bunch of you're factoring in millions of dumbasses that don't know what they're talking
Right.
about, like influencing it. So like that's what it's real, but it's based on like nothing, but it's something. It's
Well,
really trippy.
it's like Anderson Silva's first fight in the UFC. He was an underdog to Chris Lieben, and if you ask anyone in the UFC that was like working for the company at that time, they were all betting like their fucking mortgages on Anderson Silva to win that fight. Which,
Okay.
I mean, he starched Chris Lee, but I don't think he got punched in that fight. Like
Yeah.
starched him. So it would be like
Okay.
betting your life savings on Shimaev in his first fight because you
Yeah.
knew who he was before he got there.
Yeah.
That's what happened back then. But Vegas wasn't sharp on the UFC then because
Yeah.
it was so many years ago. Now Vegas is a lot better about that because they got their
Locked
ass
in.
taken.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting for sure, man. Anybody that's tuned into any dreadful talk ever, actually, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. I'm gonna get my guest, this week's guest, Harrison Madden, back on here.
Hello, we're back.
We're back. Sorry, I had to go steal this water bottle off a guy in the Home Depot parking lot real
I was
quick.
gonna say, were you auctioning work or like how'd you get that?
Yeah, well, I picked the guy up from Home Depot and he didn't make it home, so I kept the water bottle. But but yeah, man, I'm just fucking around. But yeah, man. So I want to start this part two of episode 16. I wanted to start this part off with your fat dab, and then I wanted you to just start running through your picks for UFC 253. You can do them all if you want to, or just the ones that you feel real confident about. Including the prelims. I'll be real. I'll be completely honest. I only really have strong opinions about the co-main and the main. So
Okay.
I'll kind of rejoin you once we get to that point. But yeah, I'll just pretty much let you. You can take your dab, and then I'll
Do
just
you want
let
me
you
to?
roll.
Let me ask you. You want me to start at the top and go down, or you want me to start at the bottom and go up?
Prelims to main, like bottom up, I guess.
All right, cool. Then you pick whatever prelim fight you want. I'll introduce the odds. I'll talk about how it's moved, and then we'll give a little preview.
All right, cool, cool. While you take your dab, I'll get the card pulled up. Get the old faithful, little scumbag laptop.
Yeah, I got you, bro. The first fight is Cadice Ibrahimov versus Danilo Marquez. Okay, it opened. I should note Ibrahimov 0-3 in his UFC tenure, 11-0 before he came to the UFC. So he's had some tough fights. Marquez never fought in the UFC before. The fight opened at minus 185 for Ibrahimov and plus 150 for Marquez. What that means for anyone at home that's wondering, Ibrahimov is the favorite, but it's not necessarily even 2-1. So it's supposed to be a good fight on paper.
What if say the number one more time, bro?
Sure. So the number for Ibrahimov is 185, minus 185.
Minus 185.
The number for Danilo Marquez is plus 150. That's an
All right,
open. That's what it
cool.
opened at.
And so that means that you would have to bet $180 on Ibrahimov to win $100.
Precisely.
And on the flip side, you'd have to bet $100 to win $155 if you bet the underdog.
That's
So like we
exactly
talked
right.
about on part one, that incentivizes bettors to bet on the underdog, because if it was just straight up, they'd probably just take Ibrahimov or whatever the fuck.
Right. So yeah, like if you bet 100 on Marquez, you can win 150. If you bet 100 on Ibrahimov, you can only win 60.
Exactly.
So it's like, what would you want to do in that case, right?
Yeah.
You'd want to bet
You're
on your
more
better option, but it's also less likely that option hits.
Yeah.
So Vegas tries to find this crazy balancing game, which I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's this balancing point. That's why they set the numbers where they set them. And I'll get to that whenever we get to the Blachowicz-Reyes fight.
Yeah, it's moved a lot.
That number's
moved a lot. We're definitely. I'm glad you say that. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're
gonna
we're gonna go deep on that one. But yeah, man. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to. That's one thing we didn't quite dive too deep into on part one. So I just kind of want to break down what those numbers meant when he says plus and minus. Said plus is going to be the underdog. You win more money by betting on the underdog. Minus is going to be the favorite, but you're more likely to win, but you win less money because it's more of a sure thing. It's less of a gamble. Hence the word gambling.
And another thing that was really hard for me in the very start for perceptions was the plus and minus. Here's an easy way to think about that. If you see plus, that means you bet 100 to win that number. Mm-hmm. If you see minus, that means you bet that number to win 100. Yeah. So minus equals out in winning 100, plus equals out in winning that number.
Exactly. The minus one was harder for me to understand.
Right.
Plus,
right. Minus
plus
makes no sense.
Straightforward, but minus. I mean, it makes sense, but it's just one of those things you gotta like recalibrate. It's like how like music jargon makes sense to musicians, but that shit don't mean nothing.
Like a 4/3 tempo. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
to anyone outside of music, or a 3/4 tempo, whatever the hell it is. I don't even know. I'm lost. I'm lost in music. I know 4-3 defense and 3-4 defense.
Yeah,
football.
I thought that's where you were going. I swear to God, I thought that's where you were going. I was like, oh yeah, Mike and Will. But yeah, man. All right, yeah. Like I said, if there's any more fights on the prelims that kind of jump out to you that you feel like you can get a good number on.
Yeah. So this is what I was going to say about that fight, though. It's been bet down actually to minus 170 for Ibrahimov and plus 140 for Marquez. So essentially, that means they're not getting a lot of action because they're lowering the odds on it, and both favors they're going down.
Both directions.
And when in both directions it goes down, they're just not getting enough action. Okay. So it's not worth their while. So they don't want to lose on it. So they just decide to kind of
rushing to bet on that fight.
Right. Yeah. It's like capsizing your own boat. Like, why would you do it? You know what I mean? So what I was going to say with this fight is that Marquez has the most suspect last two wins I've ever seen in my life, like against the most suspect opponents I've ever seen in my life on the Brazilian circuit. How he got a UFC fight, I'll never know. Ibrahimov is literally fighting for his UFC life. Like, he'll be cut for sure if he loses.
I guess they did him a solid by giving him that opponent.
I feel that way too. Yeah. I feel that way too. And even though Marquez's record is 9 and
the other guy is solid by giving him Ibrahimov for his debut. You can view it that way too.
True, right? Like the UFC is being nice to both guys here.
The battle of the garbage.
But I think Ibrahimov gets this one done, and I don't think it even goes the distance. I think he actually finishes Marquez inside of 3. So there's one where he's minus 170 just to win right now. If you could find the odds for him to win by a finish, regardless of round, which they oftentimes offer, probably give it like a minus 110, maybe even like a plus 120, where you could actually net profit off of your same money. So
so the more specific your bet gets, essentially, the more money you can win because the less likely it is to happen. That's the trade-off. You know, as one goes up, the other goes down. It's a converse relationship.
Which, for anyone that wants like a little insight to my betting record, the first fight on the card last weekend was Tyson Nam versus Jerome Rivera. I text my picks to D-Mac, so if anyone needs this proof, he has them.
Yeah,
but
I have receipts.
I said that Rivera was on a short notice. It's not great to fight a heavy striker on short notice because there's a good chance you get caught. Yeah. As we talked about in our breakdown on Beefy Boys, Rivera was essentially just getting dialed in on over the first 5 minutes. Nam KO'd him in the first minute of the second round. That was my prediction.
Harrison called that Nam would win by TKO in the second. He called that like a week before the fights, or like a few days before, like we're doing now. So yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to have him on here for you guys. And that's like we're working on the Beefy Boys website, and we're gonna have a tab on there with like weekly picks and the
Beefy
fights that
Bets.
we like. Yeah, Beefy Bets tab. So that's what this is kind of a little preview of. We wanted to just introduce people to sports betting, and then also kind of get some picks in for you guys as well. So yeah. So you're feeling Ibrahimov on that one, and you'd prefer to even take him by finish,
Mm-hmm.
if you could find a better number on it for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and then what other prelims are standing out to you?
So the one after that, Juan Espino. I mean, I wouldn't take him on this number because it's minus 300, so it's not really worth it
Like,
necessarily. But I think he wins
yeah.
outright. Like, I think he's better than Jeff Hughes in almost every phase of the fight. And Espino's actually like he's a Spaniard, but he's trains with, I want to say, Dillashaw and those guys out in California at the garage or whatever the hell their gym is called.
Okay.
Legit skills. He's a legit fighter. Like, it's gonna be a good fight. By the way, I should know Ibrahimov Marquez is 205. That's gonna be a fun one, just
Okay.
for the size. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What?
The next fight after Espino Hughes, their odds, by the way, like I said, minus 300 plus 230 for Hughes. So
When you
not
get
really.
that big of a number, unless you really feel you're gonna get an upset, like you really like just something in your gut, like you know that the underdog is gonna win, it's kind of not worth it. I don't know. Like it honestly kind of depends how big your bankroll is, right? Like,
Right. That's,
'cause
yeah, and I would say the safest thing, I should have said this in the first part, a real professional gambler will bet with units, where they have a standard unit they bet on every bet regardless. And then their confidence in a bet will dictate how many units they bet on that specific bet, if that makes sense.
really, so like what? So like you just like decide, like, for me a unit is $100.
Like, what are you comfortable with betting on? If you're going to make a bet with someone, if someone just said, let's bet on it, what's that comfortable number for you? That's a unit.
Okay. All right.
So, if you were like, yeah, I'll make that bet, like, that's a unit. Now, if you think you're taking advantage of someone, you're like, yeah, let's make that bet. That's probably 2 units. And if
Okay.
you're like, well, I can't miss, like,
Bet
hey,
the
oh,
house
you're
on it.
wrong. Yeah, if you're like, you're wrong, then it's bet the house, which is like 5 units.
All right. All right. Cool. That's good to know. That's good to know. I had never heard that terminology. So, like, once again, that's why I had Harrison on for y'all. Co-host of Beefy Boys Breakdown.
That's why I'm the unit man.
Yeah, he's the unit man, and we have some good units right now, and we're gonna be bringing them beefy bets to y'all whenever the website goes up. So like I said, it's a little taste, a little nibble, a little free sample of crack to get your teenager hooked on it. But yeah, so all right, yeah, man.
We can jump up. We can jump up to the main card after that. I'll save the rest of the picks on the prelims for the Beefy Boys breakdown. So if you want to get the rest of those picks, you can come to the breakdown. I will say Alexa
Sunday.
Kamer and William Knight is the fight after Espino Hughes, third fight on the prelims. If you're gonna watch any fight on the prelims, watch that fight. Watch that fight.
What's the number on it? What's the number on that?
Okay, so it's minus 175 for Kamer and plus 155 for William Knight opening. Some books don't have a number on it right now because it's so crazy the way the money's coming in. They can't like
Really?
get their numbers calculated. Yeah. So
Who's
like
the
for
money
instance,
coming in on? Just both
well,
sides?
yeah. So check it out. Like one book, Sports Betting Euro, Sports Betting UK has it minus 155 for Kamer and plus 135 for Knight. But then Intertops, which is a US site, has it plus 145 for William Knight and minus 185 for Kamer.
Reverse?
No, not reverse, but even like they
okay.
drag the lines further in each way, and then Bovada's not even offering a line on it yet because they don't know what to take.
So that's just a banger. Then that's why you said it's a good one to watch, probably a bad one to bet.
Yes, terrible one to bet, great one to watch. William Knight's only loss is to Nchukwi, Tefon Nchukwi, who's a guy that's 5-0, all 5 by knockout. All 5 in under 3 minutes. On the Contender Series, knocked William Knight out.
Oh,
And then William Knight got brought back to the Contender Series after another win in between, and then he destroyed the last guy he fought in the Contender Series, and now fights Lex Kamer, who's Kamer's 6-0, like Ukrainian or Russian. So it's like a fight of like two dudes that are legit, like could be really good. I think 185.
well, I was about to ask the weight class. All right,
I
man.
think,
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that one for
or
sure.
it's 185 or 205, but they're legit.
I love prelims, man. That's where I find my new
Like
favorite
this is
fighters.
prelims McGee. Like this is like one of these two dudes is a rising star.
That's where we found comms at a few weeks ago.
I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely, man. For sure, brother. So yeah, well, I guess we can jump up to the main card then if you want.
Yeah, we'll go ahead with it.
Yeah,
So
go
the
ahead.
first fight is Hakeem Dawodu versus Zabira Tukugov. I already texted you about this fight. I told you it's gonna be fight of the night. It's just gonna be fight of the night.
Fight of the night. Bold claim from my man here because there's a lot of bangers on this card.
So let me just run you the odds real fast on this fight. It opened at both guys minus 110.
Even.
Dead even.
So they
Dead
just let
even.
the public really decide
Yeah,
where the
Vegas said
line goes.
Vegas. Yeah, Vegas literally told the public like you guys take the line. So for intertops, still at minus 110 each way. Actually, they have it at 115 each way, but same odds. You know what I'm saying? Sports Betting UK has it at Dawodu minus 100 and Zabira minus 120. So Zabirov's a slight favorite in that, but you can't make profit
Profit,
on that.
really. Yeah.
It's like I guess because he's minus 102. So he's technically not a minus 100 because really there is no minus 100. It's technically plus 100 only.
Yeah, yeah.
Just that's technicality. But point being, Bovada has this at Dawodu minus 110 and Tukugov minus 120. That's probably going to be what William Hill Caesars has it at. So Tukugov is the slightest of favorites. I mean, the absolute slightest. I like Dawodu in this.
So let me ask you this, because earlier we talked about how we don't necessarily like to jump on super big numbers, but we're also kind of telling people to stay away from toss-ups too. Like, where do you fall on that? I mean, that's what I mean. Obviously,
So
it's
what
nuanced,
number?
and that's what we've been talking about, how everything's nuanced in gambling. But I just kind of wanted to talk about that balance right there, because you don't want to take too shitty of a number, but if it's too small of a number, it's kind of a toss-up.
I
Yeah.
would
So
say plus 300s about where I stop looking at it.
about if you can find something in the twos, that's probably usually like some good action you think, or like if
Yeah,
you like it, if you like that number, you know what I mean. That's not too extreme one way or the other, too small,
right.
too big, kind of a sweet spot.
Absolutely. That's absolutely how I feel. Now, if you get minus 300, that's almost not worth it either because you're talking about betting $100 to win 33.
Yeah, yeah.
Starts to feel not really worth it.
And then that's what we were talking about earlier too, about like size of your bankroll, because when you use the 133, it doesn't make much sense. But
But
like
10 grand
exactly,
netting you 3,333, that
and
feels pretty fucking good.
And so, like, I feel like, people with bigger bankrolls can more afford to bet the favorites
And bet straights.
and bet straights. And then, I'll admit it. I mean, I'd be throwing like 20, 40, whatever little bit of change at these fights. I'm pretty much only going to bet underdogs
Right.
because,
You
like,
want to see profit.
what am I going to do? Win $5? Like, you know what I'm saying? I want to make it worth my time. So that's something to factor in too. That like it's kind of like we're telling you to not bet favorites, but we kind of assume we're talking to people like us, people, I guess you could say everyday Joes out there that ain't super ballers, that ain't trying to, spend thousands of dollars on their gambling, you know what I mean? But there's those people out there that, have, $100,000 bankrolls, $50,000 bankrolls, and trust me, it gets bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're more comfortable, putting a few grand on a favorite, and then they still win a few grand, even though the number's not super great.
Yeah. Honestly, Dave Portnoy, the dude that runs
Ball
Barstool,
school, yeah.
his fucking a single unit for him is 20 grand. And he'll some weekends put 10 units on shit. Like he'll go up to tens.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's
So
insane with his betting.
exactly, and those guys exist. Those guys out there. But those guys are out there in any kind of hobby. If you're into
Of
cars, there's
course, yeah.
some guy
Sports
that has
cards
a
collecting.
Ferrari.
You saw the Giannis card?
Yeah, exactly. I'm into sports cards. Some asshole bought a card for $1.8 million. And let me just
Yeah.
touch on that. Wasn't even a 10. So they get graded on a scale of 1 to 10. He had his card graded. It was a 9. And you can even do 9.5 on certain graders. So it was like I have no idea. And it's another thing that proves that they don't know what they're talking about or what they're doing. It's a one of one, so that's why it's so valuable. It's a one of one,
Oh.
but you're not supposed to grade one of ones for that exact reason because you can only hurt your
Oh.
value. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Anything
Right,
under
right,
the
right.
10, you're literally hurting value because there's no other one. So you can't resubmit it. You can't. So you literally that's kind of like a
Yeah, what
saying
the
in my
hell?
card community is don't get your one of ones graded because essentially it's all risk and no reward. I mean, if you do, I guess there is reward because if it does grade
If it is
10,
a 10.
yeah, it increases in value a lot. But yeah, this asshole spent $1.8 million on a fucking 9 of a
Damn, that's
Giannis on
crazy.
a guy that
I
can't
wondered
shoot.
about that. Like why damn, I'm so happy you explained that because I legitimately wondered what made it that valuable.
Yeah, it was a one of one, and it's a flawless, which flawless is like a super high end line of cards. It's like designer cards, essentially super high end. So, I mean, it's worth a lot of money. 1.8. And another thing that's stupid about that is you'll never make a profit, ever, ever, ever. I
Oh,
don't
when
think
you buy it
when
at
you
that
buy it
number?
at that
Yeah.
price, and if you're a collector, just buy a different one for cheaper. Or I don't know. I think it was just a flex type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Some rich
Yeah.
asshole had nothing else to spend his money on, but whatever. Um, but yeah, man. So that's just like what we were saying. That's a prime example. No matter what hobby you're into, no matter what you're doing, there's some baller out there that'll try to make you, big dick you and make you feel I'm kind of hopping back on the skateboard, and there's people out there really good at skateboarding. No matter what you're doing, there's gonna be somebody out there that's like bigger and badder and better or whatever. So
Yeah,
you,
for
you
sure.
know. But yeah, so if you want to take it seriously and invest some money and try to be big time about it, you can actually make good money betting favorites. But if you're just kind of an average Joe sports fan, kind of trying to make something interesting, maybe win a few bucks here and there, it's usually going to benefit you to bet underdogs. And I mean that's what I do. I'm not
Yeah.
belittling that for
Right.
sure.
Or I mean, if a guy's minus 150, I'll take that. I'll take a minus 150 because you're talking about winning, I think, $71 or something like that, or $68 or something like that's the return on a minus 150. So it's like,
It's worth your
yeah,
time.
yeah. That's yeah, right. Because then you're talking about if you want to pull that 68 back off the top and make another bet with your 100, the most you'll lose that night's 32
That's a
for
good
two
point.
bets, and you get really entertained. And then if you win again on another, let's say not even underdog, like you bet a guy that's minus 200 in the next fight and you win 50, well then you pull your 100 back and now you're plus $118 on the night, and you can just stop, or you could bet 100 again and still be up 18.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do.
Sometimes
They'll just keep
chaining
reinvesting
favorites, yeah,
that original 100 and just keep the profit and
yeah,
just
that's what I
keep
like to
those two
do.
things separate.
Yeah, I like to chain bet favorites if I feel confident. Now, guys like TJ Laramie last week will fuck you because they fight third in the card and get tapped in 50
Yeah, he
seconds
was a
to the
huge
only way they
favorite.
can lose.
It was like a
The only way
minus
they
350 or three something.
I think it was 335 or 340. It sucked. It sucked either way. It was terrible.
And that was probably
Anyway,
Harrison's parlay pick last week. But
yeah, and that's why parlays are so tough because
yeah, your
like
odds of everything
I
going
went
right.
yeah 10-2 on the card last week, and that happens to be one of the two I miss.
Exactly, man. Do you want to jump straight to Reyes Blashowitz, or was there
No,
anything
yeah,
before
let's
that?
no, we can go ahead and jump straight to it. That'll
All
be
right, man.
fun. That'll be
Yeah,
fun.
for sure, man. Yeah, I'm
This fight's
excited for this
extensive.
one. I'm really
Yeah.
excited for this one. So yeah, we'll get on a little bit on the MMA tip and a little bit on the betting tip. So this is the 205 light heavyweight championship because the legend John Bones Jones, some say the best to ever do it. I say the best to ever do it. He's moving up to heavyweight and vacated his light heavyweight title. So Dominic Reyes versus I don't even know what's Blashowitz's first name.
Jan.
Jan Blachowicz are fighting for the 205 championship. Reyes is a minus 300 favorite, or at least that's the number I was looking at this morning.
Yes, that's correct. Currently sitting at a minus 300. Yep.
and then Blachowicz is plus 230. And it's just a really
Yeah.
interesting matchup. You good? You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
All
just
right.
I guess we're having some connection trouble. I can hear you though, don't worry.
All right, cool, for sure. But yes, like Reyes, the thing is, they both have power. Like, I don't want to make it seem like it's finesse versus power, but it kind of is. But it's like both guys have power. But I feel like Reyes is a much more technical fighter, and
Yeah.
I tend to lean technical over power. But then there's the old school saying of puncher's chance, and with Blachowicz, it's more than a puncher's chance. Like, he's very, very good at it, and that's what he's trying to do, and he's made a career out of doing it. So I don't want to make it seem like it's like classic brawler versus striker, because Blachowicz, he's very actually patient, even though he's a
Yeah.
power puncher. So it's a very interesting matchup. Like, in a lot of ways they're similar. In a lot of ways they're different. Like, body types, they couldn't be more different. But I think and one is it which one's a southpaw? One of them's a southpaw. One of them's orthodox. So like
I believe Blachowicz is the southpaw.
is the southpaw exactly? So like I said, in a lot of ways these guys remind me of each other, but in a lot of ways they're so different.
Right. Well, and like what's crazy about it is it opened at minus 230 for Dominic Reyes and plus 180 for Jan Blachowicz, and the general public has just gone wild with it and bet it up to minus 300 for Reyes. So it's not like Vegas is as confident in him as the rest of the general public is right now. And
Yeah,
I'm
because
not as confident in him either. Now, I think he wins? Yeah, I think he does. I think he
I think
does.
he. Well, I think, and this is probably like really easy to say, but I think it's a classic example of. I think that if it goes the distance, Reyes wins, but I think obviously Blachowicz can knock him out. Like I think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a cop out to say, but
No, I think the best comparison for this fight, as far as like a previous fight, has to be when Blachowicz fought Gustafsson. Reyes isn't necessarily a small light heavyweight. I think he's 6'3",
6'4". He's
6'4".
big.
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
But
he's a
he
big
oddly
guy.
enough has a 1 inch reach disadvantage to Blachowicz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He has long arms, but the thing about it is Reyes is quicker. He's a little bit better
Quicker.
footwork.
Yes.
His boxing is good. His wrestling is good.
He throws better kicks.
Yeah, I would say Reyes is a bit better striker as far as like being able to mix it up in his in and out movement.
I
Blachowicz just
think
has that crazy power.
this is the crazy power exactly. And I mean, if you look at like their credentials, like their resume, I should say. I mean, Reyes' resume is way more impressive. I looked up
Yeah,
here.
I
I'm
agree.
just gonna read off Reyes' last 5 fights. Cannoneer, who's a badass, win. OSP, who back then was kind of fucking around, but he is a badass, win.
Was that how long ago was that? Year ago, year and a half? Do you have the date by chance?
I didn't write down the date. I think these are all 2019 and
19.
up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
He's
Yeah.
been very, both of these fighters have been very active, and both of their last fight was around the same time.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to note too. Neither guy coming off a long break. Both guys have been really active. But yeah, so he has coming off Cannoneer win, Ovin St. Preux win, Ozdemir win, Weidman win. And then his only loss was a highly controversial decision to John Jones. Not only lost ever, but in the last 5 on that murderer's row.
That is his only loss ever.
Oh, that
He's
is his
12.
only
He's
loss
12
ever.
and 1.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, like I said, I think Reyes is just like
Hey, also side note, he didn't lose that fight. I love John Jones, and I won't say that if you ask me when we're talking about John Jones, but when we're talking about Dominic Reyes, he won that fight.
that's I feel like how a lot of people feel. Like a
I
lot of
mean,
people, like a lot. I was watching a lot of podcasts where people were saying that Reyes got robbed, but then they're like, well, did he get robbed because he was fighting the GOAT? And like,
I listened to Luke Thomas on Sirius Fight Nation call it live driving home from work that night while I was watching on my phone, and I mean he thought John Jones lost. And
yeah,
that's
a lot.
one of the most revered MMA analysts there is out there right now.
I was watching that fight. I will say it was back before I was as deep into it as I am now, and I was paying as close of attention as I am now. And I am a big John Jones fan, and I was very drunk. So I was just kind of like
I'm a
more.
huge John Jones
I
fan,
was
so I'm
more of a
definitely
fan that
biased.
night. Like I wasn't really trying to be objective like I do now when I watch it for the podcast.
Absolutely.
So at the time, I was like, "Oh, everybody can fuck off. John Jones win. He's the GOAT." But I definitely, looking at it with a more objective eye, see the argument for Reyes winning that fight. So I'm just saying, Cannonier, OSP, Ozdemir, Weidman, and then a highly controversial, pretty much didn't lose to John Jones. Like
Like his
I
stock went up in that fight. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. So it's hard for me to really like I don't know. Like I said, I mean Blachowicz could always catch him with a punch, and drop him. And I think maybe if he gets him in mount, it could be bad news because he's a much thicker man. They
Yeah,
don't they,
yeah. Very
they
much
don't
more
really
thick.
even look like they're the same weight class. Like if you just looked at pictures of him, Reyes is super slender and not even like chiseled slender either. Like
Reyes is weird
Hamzat.
to me because he looks like he could be 185. Like
Yeah,
Yoel Romero and him look like the exact same size.
yeah,
In other
they
words.
do. Yeah, no, exactly. And so just completely different body types. Blachowicz is very, very thick, very muscular, very sturdy. And then Reyes is so lanky. So there are scenarios where I think it could go badly for Reyes, but and this number. So like if you're asking me who I think is gonna win, I think it's Reyes. But do I like it enough to bet minus 300
No.
against a murderer like Blachowicz? I don't. So like I don't know.
I
Like
would
I
if
kind
you
of
if
want to
you
bet this fight. I mean, I don't know unless you want to unless you want to bet on the Blachowicz knockout. I
Yeah,
think that's
no,
the bet to
that
make.
would net you. So here's a term we didn't talk about earlier. So one more term we should add to the book. Super important, and this is a great situation to talk about this in. If you got Dominic Reyes at the earliest minus 230, right? If you took that, a fantastic hedge. The term is hedge, right?
Yeah,
Fantastic hedge to that bet would have been to take Blachowicz while he was still his highest possible odds of victory by knockout because he's plus 180 opening. He's probably by knockout or TKO knockout. He's probably plus 400 at
yeah,
opening. So you're talking about you can put 30 on Blachowicz to do that, right? And that would net you 120 to win, right?
yeah.
Meanwhile, you can bet your typical 100 on Reyes. So if you lose that 100 and Blachowicz does do it, then you win plus 20. You're plus 20.
Yeah.
So your return on investment is still positive. But also,
Yeah,
then in that
that's a
case,
perfect example. That's a perfect example of hedging, as you said. You hear people use the term "hedge your bets" all the time when they're like not even talking about betting. It's just like a phrase that's used in our society. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm really glad you brought that up.
yeah, so that is a hedge, is to put small money on a big underdog and your normal bet on your regular dog or
Your favorite.
your regular favorite, yeah. Um, in the hopes that you will hit the sweet spot. And sometimes you can mathematically find a sweet spot, by the way. Sometimes Vegas does fuck up just slightly. Well, not Vegas, but some sports books. So
Yeah,
you
like
can be
if
on the
you
lookout
find
for
the
shit like
right
that.
numbers out on the right
Right,
places at the right times. Yeah,
right.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's like with those fluid numbers. That's why we've been emphasizing that so much, is because
The fact that
when
public
you bet
controls.
and where you bet play a big factor in your success or failure or the degree of said success or
Oh,
failure.
yeah.
For sure, for sure. So like I said, I mean, if we were just on Beefy Boys, like if I was talking about who I thought was gonna win just from like a sportsman's point of view, I would feel really good about Reyes, but I really don't feel good about betting Reyes minus 300 against a guy
Yeah,
like Blachowicz.
the odds aren't great. I mean, if you wanted to take, I would say in this fight for sure over 2.5 rounds, super safe.
Yeah,
I would even
both
say
guys.
you could push it over 3.5.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because both guys are patient fighters.
They
Both
don't
guys
push.
have
They don't
fought
force
five
shit.
rounds before,
Mhm.
and both guys, know that in order to fight 5 rounds, you can't necessarily go, balls deep in round one.
Right, and it's the pressure of an open title that neither of
Yeah,
them have held.
that's true. That's a totally different dynamic than one guy fighting for another guy's belt. You're right.
Right,
Like the pressure dynamic is different. I feel like as far as like mental head game pressure, like you know
right,
what I
absolutely,
mean.
because it's almost like tournament style rather than like challenger style.
Yeah, yeah. Less I think less likely to pucker up, like just more
Yeah.
probably a little looser, than worrying about losing your belt or who knows. I mean, the minds of fighters are so
I think you're
interesting.
more patient. You know what I mean? Because I think you're like, I don't have to take this from him. Like, I just need to win this fight.
Oh, and you're talking about even for like in the eyes of judges as well.
Yeah, like the way
Usually
the
camps
fighter
are
can,
more likely to win the decision.
right.
That's an interesting point, man. That's a very interesting point. Um, but yeah, I mean, the only way I see Blashovitz winning this fight is by knockout. I do not see him like outpointing Reyes and winning a decision.
No, I
Like
mean,
at all.
if you wanted, like I was saying, I think absolute best bet if you can find it on this is over 3.5 rounds because you're going to get a plus number on that. Maybe you might get a -110, but you're going to get your best odds on that, and it's going to be close. Like there's a chance one of these guys could finish the other before then. These guys are 205, big power, but like we're talking about, they're patient, they're calculated, they both have good chins.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
I
mean
don't I don't see a
it's gonna
finish
be a
coming.
really fun fight. It's gonna be a really fun fight. I think it's gonna really come down to if Reyes can keep the distance. I think that's
Now,
what it boils down to.
so they're the co-main, and I agree with
Yes,
I agree with you. The range control is going to matter. That will be the determinant factor for sure because Blachowicz and Close is going to win that.
yeah.
But the main fight,
The main event
Costa
is
Adesanya,
yes,
which for people at home, and we're going to stress this on Beefy Boys Breakdown, the whole year. By the way, because this fight's been booked since like January.
yeah.
Dana White has said this is his prediction for fight of the year. The whole year, and he keeps saying it. He keeps saying it.
And we've been talking about it on like every podcast, even though
It's
it's like not relevant. We can't wait.
dude. I mean, friends out here that I'm hanging out with. You know what I'm saying on a day to day, talking about Costa Adesanya with me. Like it's
Yeah,
a fight that's kind of transcending the fight world and is actually going to like the sporting world. And
yeah.
I
It's all
love I
over
love when that
ESPN.
shit happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
no doubt.
it's a great thing. These guys hate each other. The last time Adesanya fought against Whitaker, he jumped up on the cage, was flipping off Costa, and he was telling him,
That
"You're
was
a piece of
baller.
shit. You're a piece of shit." And then he started talking shit on the mic to him after the fight. Like they
Yeah.
hate each other. Like they do not
He
like
said
each
he said he
other.
was a fake ass Ricky Martin or some shit. I love that. That was
Yeah,
so
he's gonna look
fire.
like the real Ricky Martin, botched.
That was a bar.
Yeah, I was like, God damn. Yeah, but then Paulo Costa on the other side, the way he talks trash to Israel Adesanya is the greatest of anyone because he doesn't do anything that makes any sense at all. Like on SportsCenter, they had a teleconference a week ago, and Costa just starts unbuttoning his shirt and starts like pulling up his chest and his abs and is flexing at Adesanya while he's talking. Pisses Israel off, and he just starts yelling, "Put your tits away! No one wants to see that." And he's just super pissed off. Gets vehemently angry and just throws his headset and walks off. And then Costa buttons up his shirt and he's like, "Where do you go, skinny boy?" And it was just like he's the ultimate troll to a guy that is a troll. Like it's great, man. It's a great
Yeah,
fight.
it's a great fight, just completely contrasting styles. And a great fight on from a betting perspective, much more intriguing than the Reyes Blashovitz because the number's so
Yeah,
much lower.
it's
Yeah,
super hard to call,
super hard to call and super fun to talk about
and you can
because the
profit
numbers so
either
much.
way too.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Adesanya minus 175, so he is favored, but like not hugely favored.
Yeah,
And
I mean
then
you win like $65 on a $100 bet there, so not like it's worth betting.
yeah, it's worth betting. And then but Costa plus 145. I mean, on a guy like Costa who's a fucking animal, that's a great number. If you like Costa.
And you would never take Costa in a decision. You would never take that because
No.
you know he doesn't win this in a decision. You know he
No.
wins. You know he
Oh,
wins by a finish.
I honestly want to say that about both guys too, because just because
Hmm.
Adesanya is skinny, everybody's acting like there's no way he can knock out Costa, and I can
Oh
actually see a
no, hell
lot of
no,
ways
hell
that
no. Yeah, Israel's one of the best
elite
kickboxers
strikers
on earth. Like
on
one of the
earth.
most elite strikers on earth. Like
Yeah,
he can knock out any man that is the same weight as him. I genuinely believe that. And
yeah,
he's precision over power. Like he will put the shot on the button rather than just put the lights out with the electricity going out.
and he has the pretty sure he has a pretty big reach advantage. I mean, he's an incredibly long
He
fighter.
does, but I will say stylistically, Costa. That doesn't matter. Costa's
Yeah,
just going to charge in like a
he's a
motherfucker and get
bullet
in
time
tight.
shot.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
If for
no,
anyone
bro.
that wants to see Costa on example, just go watch his fight with Romero. If you have ESPN Plus or a Disney Plus account, you can look it up. It's a phenomenal fight, and it shows you exactly who Paulo Costa is, which is entertaining as hell. It's why he's only plus 145.
Yeah.
For anyone that knows how good Adesanya is,
Yeah.
these are crazy close odds. They're also both undefeated. Adesanya 19-0, Costa 13-0. The only other time in UFC history two male fighters have fought for the belt undefeated, both sides. Lyoto Machida versus Rashad Evans in 2010. So you're talking about it's been a decade since two undefeated male fighters have fought for a belt.
Yeah, man.
And
I
we get to
mean,
see it Saturday.
this is another one that, like, me personally, I'd probably avoid, not because of the number, because of what I said earlier about like betting on like teams I'm a fan of and shit like that. Like
I love Izzy.
I want Adesanya to win so much. Like I've been an Adesanya fan before we even started Beefy Boys.
For sure.
I've been an
For
Adesanya
sure.
fan. So like that's the reason why, just like me personally, I wouldn't bet this fight. But the numbers given on this fight, I think, present some really interesting betting opportunities. Like, I
For
think
sure.
people watching should bet this fight. I'm just saying, like, me personally, because I mean, minus 175. I mean, I could see that being a great number on one of the best fighters in the world. But if you're one of these, I mean, see, this is kind of a fight that you bet with your heart, though, because it's not. I mean, everybody knows the styles, the credentials, the records. So it's it's who do you like? You know what I'm saying? Do you
Right.
like the just behemoth, just
The
pounder,
Destroyer.
the destroyer, or do you like the finesse, just the highest of high level Navy SEAL like precision of Israel Adesanya? Like I've seen it's like I've seen a lot of fights where precision wins, and I've seen a lot of fights where power wins. Like if Izzy somehow like tries to throw a kick and slips and Costa lands on him, I mean it's probably like over. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I
well, I mean,
could,
it's like Izzy's a sniper and
yeah,
Costa's a
tank,
missile.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's man, like either one can be effective. It just kind of depends on which
Depends
like
on,
terms,
yeah,
whose
right.
terms. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
whose terms does the fight take place on? Like,
It,
is Izzy at range for him to just like land shots on his jaw? Is he controlling the distance, making Costa charge at him? Because if you remember, we were together when we watched this fight, Stipe and Verdum. Stipe very first won the belt. Verdum just charged at him, and Stipe landed that stepping
exactly.
backwards counter right,
I could see
knocked
that
him out.
happening. I
I
could see
I
that
can see it.
happening.
I can see it literally in my brain. I can see it happening
But
like with those two guys
I could see Costa maybe somehow like pressing him up against the cage and just
and just
going to
landing like a
work.
bomb
A
and then
couple
and
bombs, like even if
yeah,
they're partially
getting him
dropped,
rocked.
like
Hmm.
yeah, like that's what I'm worried about. Like I'm worried about like Adesanya doing everything right, but it's just Costa's power like just translates through the
Well,
defense.
and when guys get inside and they're down to trade like Gastelum was, it can be a problem for Izzy because
Yeah,
sometimes he is a little like he's down
and
to
Izzy
trade as well. And
he
with the
did win
guy's
that fight
power,
by
like
knockout though.
in the fifth round though, after taking a
Yeah,
bunch of damage and
yeah,
being fucking
and,
dead,
and he
but.
wouldn't survive that damage against Costa.
That's what my point is. Is Costa, even though
That's a good
Gastelum hits
point.
hard, Costa is
Another level.
next level hard
Yeah.
hitter. Like he is top level hard hitting. So we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. If I had to give a lean, I lean Adesanya, and I would bet him in. I would bet him in probably over 2.5, under 3.5. I think he gets a finish mid third round.
Dude, I was this close to saying I might bet the under 2.5 on this one. Just because of the
It's close, right? Like it's close,
I
right?
could
Because
the
I go
more
early
I'm
third,
thinking
but
about it,
if you go late second, like that's well, I guess if I go early third, that's under 2.5.
what I'm saying is the what I'm saying is like the more I think about it, the less I see this going the distance.
Yeah, me too. Because Costa's
I
just gonna push and charge, and he's gonna force striking, and
like
Israel's gonna trade.
I'll even go a step further to say, because like I said, you either like Adesanya in this fight or you like Costa in this fight. But I think whatever fighter you like, whichever one it is, I would up the ante a little bit and bet for the finish.
Yes, I agree
on either
100%.
guy and
100%.
improve your number.
But also, you know what I think that means? I think that means that the safest bet in this fight is that you bet most likely under 2.5 or under 3.5. Like if you can find those numbers.
Yeah, I think so, man. I do not. The more I think about it, because Costa's going forward and Adesanya's counterpunching. I mean, that's what it is. Like we don't even have to watch the fight to know
Right.
that
Like that's
that's
just
what
their
it is.
styles. But styles
So
make fights.
who's gonna catch who? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
That's
right.
that's not going five. But it might be important to note they're back in the full size cage, right?
They are in a full size cage.
That helps Izzy a fuck ton.
But if you heard his recent interview with Ariel Helwani, and I agree with you, I don't disagree with you at all. This is just Izzy's perspective. Ariel asked him that exact question: do you like being in a bigger cage because you're the because you have my apologies, better
You're good,
footwork?
buddy.
And Izzy was just he kind of laughed and was like, guys say that makes a difference, and to me it makes no difference. And he raised a good point, which is in kickboxing he fought in an even smaller square with actual corners where he had to get his footwork in and out of
You
places.
know what? Against anybody else, I would totally buy into that. But against Costa, you can't tell me that you don't want a bigger cage.
The extra space isn't good.
Against just the go forward tank,
Yeah,
like you know what
a
I'm
blitzing
saying?
gorilla. Like, of
Like
course you want a little more space.
if he was fighting another, rangy guy or another, really anybody else, if he was fighting a grappler,
How about
or
Jared Cannonier, for
yeah,
instance?
like damn near anybody else, I would agree with him. But against Costa, this particular matchup, this cat and mouse game that's going to be going on.
That's a great term. It's cat and mouse. It's Costa chasing Adesanya
Yes,
and Adesanya trying to lead him into traps and set
yes,
traps and
set trap.
land bombs from
It's
traps.
going to be like goddamn Macaulay Culkin in there. Just
Yeah, it's
fucking
like
setting booby
yeah.
traps.
You can be
Oh
home
no,
alone, dog.
yeah, no, for real. That could easily work. Those booby traps could turn off Costa's heavy ass lights at any given second.
Right, and
But
that's what we're talking about with precision striking for Israel.
like that, I don't think that Costa is gonna get say Costa wins by knockout. I don't think it's like a clean drops him knockout. I think it's like an
Oh no,
ugly
it's like a
smash,
brutal
like
fucking
ground and
yeah.
pound, or like just up against the cage clinch. Like I don't think it's gonna be like a boxing exchange, like duck and let one rip. Like you know what I'm saying? I don't see that
I
going
think
down.
more than likely the way that Costa would win is to catch him with a big shot while they're on the feet. Israel starts to try and duck and dodge and run because he knows when he's in trouble to
He's
start
hurt.
moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows when he's hurt to start moving. Like he's fought damn near 100 professional fights, 75 kickboxing, 20 MMA. Like he knows to get on his bike and move. But Costa, like we're talking about bull in a china shop, he'll just press in the cage and then just start throwing bombs. And like you were saying, even if he's partially connecting, when you're rocked, you'll get sat down from shit like that.
When we talk about this on Beefy Boys all the time, but like if there's certain guys' power, especially once you get above welterweight, that just it's kind of indefensible power. Like even if you
Right.
block it perfectly, like honestly, like a certain guy's head kicks, even if you block it perfectly, or just certain guys' power can punch through a guy's guard.
Yeah, 205 and heavyweight show this all the time.
And this
Heavyweight
is a
especially.
middleweight fight, but Costa is like
How he
not
makes
really a
185,
middleweight. Yeah,
even God himself doesn't understand it.
it makes no sense. Like he weighs like 240. Like he's massive.
Right.
Like he literally looks like a
Actually, he put a picture
bodybuilder.
up on the scale when he signed the contract for the fight. He weighed 227
227. Yeah,
when he signed.
because he is very lean. He's extremely lean, but he's
Dude,
just
that's
so
huge. He has to cut
swole.
42 pounds.
But I don't even know where because I think he was 227 with abs. Like it's not like he
Yeah,
was like
no,
a
yeah.
sloppy two.
Think about 42 pounds out of 227. That's 20% of that number. He literally drops 20% of his body weight to fight. Like,
What do you think he steps in the octagon
yikes.
weighing? Do you think he gets back up to like 215, 210?
I think if they weighed him the last time against Romero. I think they said he was 207. He put on like 22 pounds in 36 hours.
Yeah. That's. I mean,
That's insane.
these guys, that's what they do, right? Like, I mean, these guys are masters at it, and they have whole teams. It's not just them. Thank God, it's not just
Well,
them
and
anymore.
muscle holds more water than fat as far as tissue is concerned. So, like the fact that he is like 2%, 3% body fat means that his muscle can hold more water. So when he cuts weight, he dehydrates way further than other guys because his muscles are so inflated. And then when he rehydrates, he puts on more weight than other guys because his muscles can rehydrate so much.
He literally inflates, just like Adesanya said. He said that big, bald,
Yeah,
inflatable.
he literally is like an inflatable
He is.
because of
He's
his
so
muscle
puffed
tissue.
up. But I mean, the thing is, though, he still has like fluid movement. Like he doesn't have that
Yeah, no,
like stiffness that usually muscled up guys have. It's
he's not
really
like like
interesting.
like Blachowicz is really blocky when he
Yeah,
punches. Costa
yeah,
is fluid as shit and just
he's
really
fluid.
really aggressive and like he just is non-stopping.
Gotta ask you, you think Costa's out natural or
I don't know. There's all kinds of fucking talks about it. I think he is natural, man, because USADA busts dudes when it's not good for the UFC, and this would be a prime time for them to bust a guy when it was talked about it being not good for the UFC. But
I'll say
I don't know, man.
if he's not, he's a genetic freak. Like
Right, right. Like
if he's
like he's
not.
different than me or you
Like
or most
Aaron
other
Donald.
humans.
Like he's like an Aaron Donald type of
I think Yoel
motherfucker.
Romero is in the same cut of humans as Paulo Costa, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, I get, but just
Because Yoel Romero's
physically,
42, and he looks like that still.
true that, true that. But see, when you're on 42, you can get approved for TRT legally.
Not in the UFC though.
Yeah, good point, good point. But yeah,
Like
I don't
like Yoel
Costa.
Romero is supposedly natural at 42 and looks like that.
Am I racist for saying that I would be less likely to believe he was on roids if he wasn't from Brazil?
Yeah, for no, you're not racist at all
It's
because it's
like
that Brazilian acai. You know what I'm saying?
that. There's like a lot of precedent in the specific sport of
Yes,
UFC
yes. If,
of
specifically for fighting in Brazil, like any
and
sort of
big boys
fighting
from
martial art,
Brazil.
like that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's all of it. Like they have performance enhancing drug histories.
It's a big problem over there.
Yeah,
I gotta be real, bro. I was dying. I felt like a douche, but I was dying. I was watching the little pre-fight like hype video between like Costa and Adesanya, and like they're like back in Brazil, and like Costa, they're like, we opened a brand new state-of-the-art facility, and then they like zoom in real close, and it's like a real rusty like garage door being opened. It's like
I
I actually
fucking
like.
hate. I
Like
fucking
I
hate Paulo Costa, dude. Oh my god.
I hate that. Like I mean, I personally like working out in shitholes, but I'm saying like work that angle. But they were hyping it
Yeah.
up like it was like Oregon football. Like they were like talking about it, like, oh yeah, because he did it with his brother. They opened it up. Like we opened up state of the art, world class facility for Paulo to train in. And like it's literally a zoomed in like close up, and it's like fucking rusty as shit. And I'm like, what? Like as they're saying this, like as the narrator's like world class facilities, it's like fucking.
Oh.
I was just like, I was dying. I was like, I know I've watched like too many episodes of South Park. Whenever I think that's like the funniest
Yeah.
thing ever. Like it was just so like
Well,
why Cap? Like if anything, work the badass rough Brazilian angle.
right.
Don't
That's what I was gonna
like,
say. Most of the guys talk about how they're from like the fighting pits and the favelas and shit. And it's like a way better angle to come from Brazil. Like Paulo Costa tries to be like the Brazilian pretty boy, and it's crazy to me. Like he's just a totally different guy.
he's like the dude that wears like fake Gucci belts to the club and like
Dude,
returns
he
his
always is
outfits.
in like a fucking button up, disgusting looking shirt, like he's about to go out to a dance party and do salsa all fucking night. Like I don't understand it. It looks
I
like he does. It looks like he salsa dances and does blow all fucking night long. Like that's
it
what he
does.
looks like to me. And then he
I
hits the gym in the morning. Like
I'll
that's
say
the
there's
guy
a
I think he
probably
is.
0% chance he's never done cocaine.
10%. Like he owes me coke for all the coke he's probably done.
Nobody shows that much chest unless they're hitting rails.
Who comes on SportsCenter and just starts unbuttoning their shirt while their opponent's talking shit about them and just starts flexing their shit other than a cokehead?
I was on his Instagram watching his live the other
Oh
day,
my God,
and
dude,
like
they're the best. They're the
his
best.
his trainer was like unveiling. Like, and it's hilarious because his trainer's like this short, fat dude, and I was like, "What?" And then
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then he was like unveiling this like new suit that he's like, it's like his trainer's suit. Like he was like trying to plug it, but then he like flips the camera around and starts like flexing his tits. It's like, I shit you not. It's like he plays the like I. Now let me ask you this: do you think that it's like a hyped up like Covington, like McGregor, like
No,
role? Like you
no,
think
that's
that's just
no.
like him to
That's
the
why I like
floor?
it so much.
He's
I
just
think it's
meathead
just,
Brachoni, fucking
yeah,
Latino machismo,
he's
just.
just Paulo motherfucking
And
Bohachina
his
Casa, the
name's Paulo.
eraser.
He reminds me, on Friends, Jennifer Aniston would rail the Brazilian guy named Paulo.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
was just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
dude, guys named Paolo sling dick for sure.
Yeah, yeah, slanging that dick,
Yeah,
as Joey
man,
Diaz would say.
definitely slanging and banging, brother. But man, that honestly about wraps it up. I don't want to go too deep today because I know we're gonna go talk about a lot of the same stuff again on Sunday. Uh, Dreadful Talk fans, tune in on Sunday to Beefy Boys Breakdown. I think this will be episode 17 for UFC 253. This is a really epic card. Two belts on the line. Some of the best in the world going at it.
I'll tweet
Hope
our picks for us too from our Twitter. I'll put them
cool.
out on Twitter this week. That
Yeah,
way everyone can
follow
see them and
at
follow
Beefy
them.
Breakdown on Twitter. At Beefy Breakdown. Sub to the YouTube Beefy Boys Breakdown. Like the Facebook page. Just fuck with us, y'all. We appreciate, every single viewer, every single follower. We appreciate y'all. Um, Also, do the same. If you haven't subscribed to Dreadful Talk yet, do the same thing. We also have a Dreadful Talk Facebook page. Go like that. Dreadful Talk Dom on Instagram and Twitter. I got my first batch of Dreadful Talk t-shirts getting printed up as we speak. Like I literally saw the text message from the t-shirt guy while we were recording this podcast. So
Let's go. You
I'm
know, I'll be
so
wrapping out here in
stoked.
Norman.
Yep. Beefy Boy shirts coming next. That's coming soon. The sponsorship's coming soon. We got a lot of things in the work. Website coming soon. We doing the damn thing. For both of them. Everything I said applies for both Dreadful Talk and Beefy Boys. We got merch coming. We got websites coming. Fuck with us. We
Let's
appreciate y'all.
go.
Thank you so much for your time, Harrison. Thank you for your
Yeah,
betting advice.
always.
And yeah, you guys, place a small bet, see if you like it, see if it tickles your fancy. Watch a UFC fight. Hey, I'll say this: anybody watching, if you've never really watched a UFC card before, this is probably a good one to watch. Like this is going to be entertaining
Yeah,
as
great,
fuck.
great card to watch. If anyone has any questions, wants any tips, or wants to be on the text list for the picks, DM me, follow me on Instagram, Harrison_Madden, Twitter, Harrison_Madden. Give me a follow.
He'll be tagged in these posts. For sure, y'all. Have a good one. I appreciate y'all. Dreadful Talk Podcast, episode 16. Thanks, everybody.